Get out of first class. Flight attendant hit black CEO, froze when she heard, I own the airline. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to the story. You filthy animal. The words tore through the first-class cabin like glass shattering at altitude. Every head turned. Every heartbeat stopped. A woman in a Navy uniform stood over seat 2 amperes, her hand raised high, trembling with fury and arrogance. Her badge gleamed, Nicole Harris, senior flight attendant. And in the seat below, Alicia Monroe, calm, composed, dark-skinned and quietly dressed, sat frozen, not from fear, but from disbelief that it was happening again. The moment stretched. Someone gasped. Someone else whispered, "Is she serious?" From 3 rows back, a phone camera blinked red. Nicole leaned closer, her breath sharp. "Get out of first class before I drag you out myself." Alicia didn't move. Her fingers rested lightly on the seatbelt buckle, her chin lifted just enough to meet the rage with silence. Around them, the air pressurized not from altitude, but from tension. A man in a pilot's uniform appeared from the galley, voice unsteady. "Nicole, what's going on here?" "She's in the wrong cabin," Nicole snapped. "Fake ticket. Attitude problem." The pilot hesitated, eyes darting between them. Alicia's boarding pass was still clutched in Nicole's hand, now crumpled beyond recognition. From the next aisle, a passenger in a yellow blazer whispered to her seatmate, "She didn't even raise her voice." The seatmate whispered back, "That's what makes it worse." Alicia finally spoke, her tone low, deliberate. "Check your manifest." 3 words, soft, steady, lethal. Nicole smirked. "I don't need to. I can see what kind of passenger you are." That line hit like turbulence. Phones lifted higher. A young trainee near the galley, Mia Lang, bit her lip, whispering. Her scan was green. I saw it. But Nicole ignored her. Then came the sound no one expected, a faint click. Someone had started recording. Another followed. The quiet cabin became a courtroom. Alicia's eyes didn't leave Nicole's. "You're making a mistake," she said evenly. Nicole laughed. "I make policy." Alicia's voice didn't rise, but the weight of it filled the aisle. "No, you enforce it until someone higher tells you otherwise." The pilot shifted uncomfortably. Nicole scoffed. "Higher than me?" Alicia blinked once. "Much higher." Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change. And we're glad you're here. Now, back to Alicia Monroe, because what happened next would change how this airline defined the word power. When the cabin finally exhaled, the silence was heavier than the sky outside. Nicole's hand still hovered midair, trembling, but not from guilt. From disbelief that the woman in seat 2 amperes hadn't flinched. Alicia Monroe sat back slowly, the hum of the engines folding around her like armor. She looked ordinary soft gray cardigan, jeans, no designer bag, no glittering watch. Nothing screamed first class. That was the point. 3 hours earlier, before boarding, she had left her office on the 48th floor of Sky Vista Tower with one sentence to her assistant. "Today, I'm not flying as a CEO. I'm flying as a passenger." Her team thought it was an audit. In truth, it was an experiment. Sky Vista Airlines had built its empire on promises of equality and care. Yet the letters on her desk told another story, dozens of complaints about passengers not fitting the image of first class. So Alicia decided to see what image really meant. Now, she had her answer. Nicole straightened, trying to regain control. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to move to economy. This seat is reserved." Alicia's eyes drifted to the overhead bin where her carry-on sat inside it. A Sky Vista executive folder embossed with her initials, hidden in plain sight. "I paid for this seat," she replied, voice even. From behind, a man coughed. Another whispered, "She's calm. That's scarier than yelling." The young trainee, Mia Lang, stood frozen near the galley. Her voice barely carried. "Her ticket scanned green, I swear." Nicole spun on her. "Excuse me?" Mia swallowed. "It was valid. I checked it myself." Nicole's lips curled. "Then you'll learn not to second-guess senior staff." Alicia watched the exchange, the hierarchy, the quiet fear, and something in her expression shifted. Not anger, clarity. She thought of her mother, a flight attendant in the 70s, once told to serve the front cabin only if the passengers didn't mind. The memory flickered like turbulence in her chest. Different decade. Same altitude of arrogance. Nicole snapped her fingers. Security will escort you out if you don't comply. Alicia's reply was almost a whisper, then we'll both make history today. The line rippled through the rows like an unseen current. Someone chuckled nervously. Another pulled out a phone. The captain's voice cracked through the intercom. Cabin crew, please stand by. Nicole smirked, mistaking procedure for victory. You just made things worse for yourself. Alicia met her gaze, steady, unshaken. No, I made them visible. Outside the window, clouds rolled beneath the wing, white, endless, indifferent. Inside, a quiet storm was gathering, one that would rewrite how this airline measured worth. And for the first time that night, Nicole realized the woman she was trying to remove wasn't just a passenger. She was the test the company would fail in front of the world. The moment the captain's announcement ended, the cabin lost its oxygen, not literally, but morally. You could feel it, the slow collapse of certainty, the hum of judgment turning into something darker. Nicole adjusted her blazer, voice clipped. Ma'am, last warning, gather your things. Alicia didn't move. You've already gathered enough shame for today. The passengers heard it. A few stifled laughs broke the tension, but Nicole doubled down. Brian, she snapped, motioning to the male attendant near the galley. Escort her out. We're not arguing policy at 30,000 feet. Brian hesitated. His training manual never covered this. You sure, Nicole? Captain hasn't cleared removal yet. Then clear it yourself, she hissed. I'm not letting a scammer sit here. Ugh. Her words struck the row behind Alicia. A woman with salt and pepper hair leaned forward. Scammer? She's been polite the whole time. Nicole turned on her, voice rising. Stay out of this! But it was too late. The crowd was no longer neutral. The cabin had chosen a side. Alicia looked around, eyes calm but unblinking. You see what happens, she said softly, when bias gets power. Mia, the trainee, clenched her fists. She wanted to speak, but fear held her tongue. Then a man in business class called out, If that was a white man in a suit, you'd be pouring champagne, not threats. A murmur of agreement spread like wind through grass. Nicole's authority was thinning by the second. She turned to Brian again, desperate. Call ground control. I want verification. Brian's voice cracked. We're not even on the ground. Then radio it. Alicia sat perfectly still, the hum of engines underscoring her patience. The plane wasn't moving, but power was. Her mind flicked back to a different humiliation, age 24. Rejected from an airline internship because leadership needs a certain look. She remembered smiling through the sting. That same tone echoed now, only louder, wearing a uniform. Across the aisle, a teenage boy whispered to his mother, Why are they treating her like that? His mother shook her head slowly. Because they think silence means surrender. Oh. Alicia's phone buzzed quietly in her pocket. Rachel, her executive assistant, messaging, We're monitoring. Ready when you are. She typed back under the tray table. Not yet. Let them finish digging. Nicole paced like a cornered animal. I've got every right to protect this cabin. Alicia finally spoke. Then protect it from your own ignorance. The words didn't shout. They landed. Even the captain froze halfway down the aisle. Mia's voice trembled but finally broke free. She's telling the truth. I saw the green light on her scan. You deleted her name after it passed. Nicole's eyes widened. What did you just say? The young trainee stood taller. You heard me. She belongs here. Phones lifted higher. The quiet wasn't quiet anymore, it was charged. And as Nicole's authority crumbled in front of 80 witnesses, Alicia turned slightly toward the window, the reflection of clouds glinting off her eyes. She whispered to no one in particular. Every time they tell me I don't belong, they forget. I built the sky they're standing in. The passengers stared, unsure if they'd just heard prophecy or warning. Either way, the turbulence had officially begun. The hum of the engines filled the silence Nicole couldn't control. Every inch of the first-class cabin felt charged too quiet, too sharp, as if the walls themselves were waiting to see who would blink first. Nicole's hand trembled slightly on the service card. She masked it with a fake smile. You know what? I'm done being patient. Security will handle this. She reached for the intercom switch near the galley door. Alicia didn't stop her. She just watched steady, deliberate, eyes reflecting the cabin's sterile light. Her voice, when it came, was soft enough to chill the room. Do it. But before you press that button, ask yourself what happens when the call goes to your boss's boss. Oh, Nicole froze. What's that supposed to mean? Alicia didn't answer. She didn't have to. Mia shifted nervously by the curtain divider, whispering to another crew member. She's serious. I think she's someone important. Brian rolled his eyes. Yeah, and I'm the president. Keep working. A man across the aisle spoke up, phone in hand. Ma'am, I'm filming. For your safety. Alicia shook her head slightly. Not for mine, she said. For yours. He lowered the phone, unsure what that meant. Nicole turned toward the passengers, her voice brittle. Folks, please remain seated. We're handling a non-compliant situation. Her tone dripped with authority, but her body betrayed her shoulders tight, pulse visible at her neck. Alicia leaned back, folding her hands in her lap. Every movement she made was intentional, measured. I'm not here to cause a scene, she said. Nicole scoffed. Then leave the seat. No, Alicia replied. I'm here to end one. End. The sentence hung in the air, too elegant to ignore, too powerful to challenge. A teenage girl 2 rows back whispered to her friend. She talks like a lawyer. Her friend murmured. Or a queen. Nicole pressed the intercom anyway. Captain, we have an unverified passenger in first class. Possible forged documentation. Her words echoed through the small cabin like sirens. Alicia closed her eyes, inhaling deeply the kind of breath you take before pulling a trigger you didn't want to use. Her mind drifted to another moment. 15 years ago, an investor meeting in London, where a man called her decorative diversity. She'd smiled then too, quietly, strategically. That same stillness returned now. Her phone buzzed once in her hand. Rachel. Protocol 7 armed. Alicia typed one word. Wait. Nicole turned back, gloating. They'll remove you any second now. Alicia's reply came slow, almost kind. No, they'll remove the problem. You just haven't realized who it is yet. From the jump seat, Mia spoke up again, louder this time. She's not lying. Her name was in the manifest this morning. Nicole spun, eyes blazing. Mia, stop talking. But the words were out, and the cabin knew. Passengers shifted. One began to clap, soft, hesitant. Another joined. The sound grew not applause, not mockery, something heavier. Recognition. Alicia didn't smile. She just looked around the cabin, each face a mirror of disbelief and awakening. Truth doesn't need an announcement, she said quietly. It just needs witnesses. Nicole's voice cracked. Who are you? Alicia looked up, meeting her eyes with calm fire. You'll find out when the call comes back, she said. Outside, the night sky pressed against the windows, black, endless, waiting. Inside, Justice was quietly taxiing for takeoff. The intercom clicked again, static, then silence. The captain hadn't answered. Maybe he was listening. Maybe he was afraid to. Nicole's voice broke that silence, sharp as a buckle snapping. Everyone stay calm. We have a passenger refusing crew instructions. Her tone was brittle now, the edge of control turning into desperation. Alicia didn't move. She simply said, You keep repeating that word refusing, but what I'm refusing is humiliation. It wasn't loud. It was law. Across the aisle, a man in a blue business suit turned his phone camera toward her. She's right, he said. You're way out of line. Nicole snapped back. Sir, that's not your concern. He stood halfway up. It is when I see discrimination in real time. The tension in the cabin shifted. It wasn't just a dispute anymore, it was a reckoning. Near the galley, Mia Lang finally found her voice. She belongs here, she said again, stronger this time. Her scan was valid. Brian, still frozen by the beverage cart, muttered, Mia, drop it. But Mia didn't. She stepped into the aisle, shaking but unbroken. No, not this time. The cabin murmured. Passengers looked at each other, unsure if they were witnesses or accomplices. Alicia turned slightly toward Mia, her expression softening. Thank you, she said. Simple but weighted. Then louder for everyone. This isn't about a seat. It's about who they think deserves one. The line sliced the air like a blade. A woman from row 4 whispered, I've seen this before. Different airport, same tone. A man behind her added, always the same excuses. Policy, procedure, never respect. Another voice came from the back, tired but fierce. Film everything. Nicole's authority cracked. You think videos will scare me? She barked. I've dealt with worse. Alicia's tone didn't rise, but the temperature in the room did. No, she said. You've caused worse. There's a difference. Brian's radio buzzed. He fumbled it, caught it midair. The voice on the other end was muffled, but one phrase slipped through. Stand by. Verification. Coming through. Nicole froze. Her hand hovered above her own radio like it was suddenly burning. Alicia saw it. That's the sound of truth on its way, she said. Mia exhaled, relief mixing with fear. They're going to know, she whispered. Alicia nodded. They already do. For the first time, Nicole's confidence faltered. The smirk vanished, replaced by a flicker of doubt. You're bluffing. Alicia tilted her head. Then call the bluff. Ask them who's on the board tonight. The cabin went quiet again, an electric quiet. Even the engines seemed to hum slower, waiting for impact. From somewhere near row 6, a child's voice broke through. Mom, why are they being mean to her? And that, more than the cameras, more than the words, was the sound that changed the air completely. People looked up, really looked, for the first time. Nicole's face flushed. This isn't about color, she stammered. Alicia cut her off, calm but surgical. Then why does it always look the same? The cabin gasped not from scandal, but from recognition, the kind that feels like a mirror suddenly turning toward you. Outside, the clouds parted briefly, and light from a distant thunderhead flickered through the windows, white, electric, almost biblical. Inside, no one was filming anymore. They were witnessing, and somewhere, deep in the flight deck, a confirmation light turned green. The confirmation light above the galley door flicked once, soft and unassuming. But Alicia saw it. Protocol 7 had gone live. Somewhere thousands of miles below, servers at Sky Vista headquarters were already compiling a transcript of every word spoken on this flight. Nicole didn't notice. Her world was shrinking too fast. Security will meet us when we land, she snapped. You'll be escorted out in cuffs. Alicia turned her head slightly, just enough for her eyes to meet Nicole's. If I'm escorted out, she said, you'll be walking behind me. That tone, steady, lethal, carried farther than a shout. Mia stepped forward again, her voice trembling but clear. Captain, she said toward the cockpit. I need to log this as a bias incident. Brian hissed under his breath. Mia, stop. You're done if you do that. But she didn't stop. It's already happening, she said louder. I can't unsee it. Several passengers began recording again quietly. The sound of dozens of small clicks filled the cabin like rain on glass. Nicole's eyes darted between them, panic creeping in. You all think this will go viral? You think social media scares me? Alicia didn't even blink. Social media isn't justice, she said. It's just evidence. The line landed. Hard. One passenger, a middle-aged woman in a red blazer, whispered, She sounds like someone who's done this before. Alicia's eyes flicked to her, gentle but unreadable. Once or twice, she said. The pilot finally emerged, his cap tilted, his authority unsure. What seems to be the problem here? Nicole pounced. Captain Pierce, this woman forged her ticket refusing orders, causing a disturbance. Pierce turned to Alicia. Name, ma'am? Alicia's response was simple. The one on the plane's ownership papers. The captain frowned. Excuse me? Check your manifest, she said. Check your chain of command while you're at it. Behind her, a few passengers chuckled under their breath. The tension broke, but only for a second. Nicole barked, You're delusional, Captain. She's wasting everyone's time. Pierce raised a hand. Enough. Everyone stay seated. His voice was calm, but his eyes betrayed confusion. He turned to Mia. You said you verified her scan? Yes, sir. It was green. And her name? Mia hesitated, then spoke. Alicia Monroe. The cabin inhaled as one. Pierce blinked, recognition dawning. As in, Alicia nodded. As in CEO. Nicole's breath caught. Brian muttered a curse under his breath. The passengers weren't whispering now, they were murmuring out loud. She owns the airline? No way. That's her, she was on Forbes last year. Nicole stepped back, shaking her head. You're lying. Alicia's gaze didn't waver. You've spent the last 15 minutes proving I'm not. Oh. Pierce's radio crackled Hey Q confirmation. Executive-level passenger, verified. Repeat, verified. He swallowed hard. Understood. Nicole turned pale. Captain, I didn't know. Alicia rose slowly from her seat, the cabin lights reflecting off the silver thread of her cardigan-like armor. "You didn't need to know," she said quietly. "You just needed to be decent." The engines hummed on, steady and merciless, as Nicole's face fell into silence. For the first time that flight, no one moved. Not the captain, not the crew, not even the passengers, now witnesses to something larger than a seat assignment. Alicia looked around and said, almost gently, "You wanted to teach me about rules. Let me show you what accountability looks like at 30,000 feet." And with one small tap on her phone, the system began its audit live. The moment Alicia's phone screen dimmed, the atmosphere in the cabin changed from noise to vacuum. No one spoke. No one dared. Even the engines seemed to mute themselves, as if the plane understood the gravity of what was about to unfold. Nicole's hand, the same one that had hovered inches from Alicia's face not long ago, now trembled near her chest. What did you just do?" she stammered. Alicia didn't look up from her phone. Her tone was casual, clinical. "I initiated an internal audit. Flight 247 is now under real-time review by corporate compliance. Every word you said is archived." The passengers inhaled sharply. Nicole's lips parted like she wanted to speak but couldn't find the shape of apology or defense. Brian glanced at the captain. "Is that even possible?" Captain Pierce rubbed the bridge of his nose. "If she's who she says she is, it's not only possible, it's policy." Nicole blinked rapidly, eyes darting from one face to another, searching for support. None came. Alicia finally looked up. "Miss Harris, I didn't come here to embarrass you. I came to see if the culture I built still remembered its purpose." Her gaze sharpened. "It doesn't." The words weren't shouted, they landed with surgical precision. From the jump seat, Mia swallowed hard. "Ma'am, I'm sorry. I should have spoken up sooner." Alicia's voice softened for the first time. "You did when it mattered." Nicole's composure crumbled. "Please, I didn't mean," Alicia interrupted gently. "You meant every word. That's the problem." The cabin's quiet grew heavy again. A man in row 3 muttered, "She's handling this better than I ever could." Someone else whispered, "That's power, not noise." Alicia leaned back slightly, her profile reflected in the window dark skin framed by the blue halo of cabin light. Outside, lightning flared across a distant cloud bank, illuminating her face for a brief, cinematic instant. Then, the pilot's radio buzzed. "Captain, headquarters requests immediate crew status verification. CEO override active." Pierce exhaled, defeated. "Copy that." Nicole took a small step backward. "Captain, please. I didn't know." He shook his head. "You should have treated her like any other passenger. That was the test." Alicia turned toward Nicole one last time. "When you struck me with words, you didn't just hit a person, you hit the values on our wall. Respect above rank. Remember that slogan?" Nicole's voice broke. "Yes, ma'am." "Then start living it." Brian's voice cracked as he spoke. "What happens now?" Alicia's reply was slow, almost merciful. "Now, we land, and then the company decides who stays in the sky." The line ran through the cabin like a cold wind. Mia lowered her head, tears catching in the overhead glow. The passengers sat motionless, every screen still recording, every mind rewinding the past 20 minutes. Alicia took another quiet breath, steady and complete. For the first time that flight, she allowed herself to look outside. 30,000 feet below, the world glimmered like a reflection, tiny, fragile, unaware of what justice looked like at cruising altitude. She whispered, almost to herself, "This is what accountability sounds like. It's quiet, but it lands." The seatbelt sign blinked overhead, not as warning, but as punctuation. The cabin lights dimmed as the plane began its slow descent through a curtain of clouds. Outside, the world blurred into streaks of white and silver. Inside, time moved differently heavy, deliberate, like the pause before a verdict. Nicole stood frozen by the galley, pale and silent. Her badge glinted under the reading light like an accusation. Mia sat on the jump seat, hands clasped so tightly her knuckles whitened. She wasn't afraid anymore, just awake. Alicia remained still, gazing at the faint reflection of herself in the window. Her voice, when it came, was soft, but no one mistook it for weakness. "Captain," she said, "please patch me through to headquarters." Pierce nodded, already understanding. "Yes, ma'am." The intercom crackled. Seconds later, a calm, composed voice filled the air. "This is Rachel Yates, Executive Operations. We're live with Flight 247. Go ahead, Miss Monroe." Nicole flinched. Even Brian straightened, realizing they were now speaking to the top of the chain. Alicia stood, not hurried, not theatrical. She adjusted her cardigan and stepped into the aisle as though reclaiming territory. Her presence was gravity. Every passenger turned their eyes toward her. "Rachel," she said evenly, "I'm confirming that this crew violated Protocol 01, guest profiling, intimidation, and attempted defamation. Log the event as Level 3 misconduct." Rachel's voice stayed measured. "Understood. Incident logged. Timestamp confirmed. Do you wish to initiate termination sequence?" Nicole's breath hitched. "Termination, wait, no, please." Alicia held up a hand. "Not yet." The restraint in her tone was colder than rage. She looked at Nicole. "Do you know why I didn't reveal myself sooner?" Nicole shook her head, eyes glassy. "Because I wanted to see what leadership looks like when no one's watching," Alicia said. "Now I know." From somewhere near row 4, a man whispered, "She's dismantling her own company mid-air." Another voice answered softly, "No, she's rebuilding it." Alicia turned toward the passengers. "You all witnessed something tonight that happens far too often, in smaller ways, in quieter rooms. Maybe it wasn't your face today, but it could be tomorrow." Her words didn't demand applause. They demanded reflection. Rachel's voice returned. "Miss Monroe, awaiting directive." Alicia took a breath. "Suspend Nicole Harris and Brian Cole from all active duty. Effective immediately. Launch a cultural compliance review for the entire crew division." Nicole's knees buckled. She caught herself on the beverage cart. "Ma'am, please my career." Alicia's gaze softened, but her voice didn't bend. "Your career can recover. Someone else's dignity can't." Rachel's confirmation tone chimed through the speaker. "Order executed?" The hum of the engines filled the silence that followed, steady, relentless. Nicole covered her face, whispering through her fingers, "I didn't think it mattered who she was." Alicia turned slightly. "It never mattered who I was. It mattered how you treated me before you knew." No one clapped. No one dared speak. But the look in every passenger's eyes said the same thing. They had just seen justice conducted at altitude. The pilot's voice broke through the intercom. Quiet, reverent. "Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be landing shortly. Please fasten your seatbelts." As Alicia sat down, the plane dipped lower through the clouds. Lightning flared outside, sharp, beautiful, brief like a flashbulb at the moment history catches up with truth. The seatbelt sign glowed amber above them, but no one dared move. First class had turned into a courtroom, and Alicia Monroe sat at its center not as defendant, but as judge. Nicole was trembling now, mascara streaking faintly under her eyes. Brian stood beside her, face drained of color. The captain stayed at the doorway, hands folded tight, the weight of authority pressing on him like a uniform too heavy to wear. Alicia looked around the cabin once, calm and complete. Then she spoke not to a person, but to the moment. "I built this airline on one promise," she said quietly, "that no one would ever feel small in our sky. And tonight, I watched that promise break." Her tone wasn't bitter, it was mournful, the kind of disappointment that carries more force than rage ever could. She turned to Rachel's voice on the intercom. "Connect me to the cabin audio. The passengers deserve to hear this." "Live feed enabled," Rachel confirmed. Alicia stood again. Her words now carried through every speaker, into every row. "I'm Alicia Monroe, founder and CEO of Sky Vista Airlines. You've just seen a culture check that wasn't staged, wasn't planned, but was necessary." "Oh." Murmurs rippled through the cabin. Shock, awe, disbelief. A man whispered, "She really owns it." A woman near the window whispered back, "And she still had to prove she belonged." Alicia let the silence breathe before continuing. "Too often, people confuse uniforms with authority and silence with weakness. But power doesn't wear a color. It shows up when dignity is tested." Nicole's eyes welled. "Miss Monroe, please, I was following procedure." Alicia turned toward her, voice low, unwavering. "No, you were following prejudice." The words hit harder than any slap could. Mia's breath caught in her throat. She had never heard an executive speak like that, not on camera, not in private. Alicia continued. "This flight was supposed to be routine. But tonight, it became a reminder to me, to this company, to all of us, that respect isn't policy, it's character." Her gaze swept the cabin, meeting eyes that now couldn't look away. When I built Sky Vista, I didn't want to fly higher. I wanted to fly fairer. That starts here. She turned back to the intercom. Rachel, confirm immediate retraining for all senior cabin staff on bias prevention and guest treatment. And make this recording required viewing for new hires. Confirmed, Rachel replied. Nicole's voice cracked. Please, Miss Monroe, I didn't mean... Alicia stopped her gently. You didn't mean to get caught. There's a difference. That line landed like thunder. For a moment, the passengers simply stared awed, silent, shaken. Then, one by one, hands began to clap, soft at first, then stronger. Mia joined them, tears streaking down her cheeks. Even Captain Pierce lowered his head slightly, as if saluting the inevitable. Alicia didn't smile. She only whispered, "This isn't applause for me. It's for every person who's ever been told they don't belong in first class and stayed anyway." The thunder outside rumbled again, as though the sky itself agreed. And somewhere far below, the ground waited not for arrival, but for impact. The applause faded, but the echo of it lingered in the cabin like a heartbeat that refused to stop. Nicole stood rigid by the galley door, eyes wide, breath shallow. For years, her uniform had been armor. Now, it felt like evidence. Alicia hadn't moved since sitting down. Her calmness didn't read as mercy, it read as judgment delivered. Outside the window, the city lights of Atlanta began to pierce through the cloud cover below, glowing like embers. The descent had begun. "Captain," Alicia said quietly, "please notify ground control. I want security and HR waiting at the gate." "Yes, ma'am," Pierce replied without hesitation. His voice was steady now, almost reverent. Nicole swallowed hard. "Miss Monroe, I've served on 37 transatlantic flights. I've trained crews. I've been loyal." Alicia turned her head slightly. "Loyal to what, Nicole? To passengers or to prejudice?" The question struck like turbulence, silent, invisible, but impossible to ignore. Brian, still frozen near the beverage cart, tried to intervene. "She's not a bad person. She just made a mistake." Alicia's gaze met his, calm but merciless. "A mistake is forgetting a drink order. This was a choice." He looked away, shame washing over his face. Mia, still seated near the bulkhead, wiped her eyes. She wasn't crying anymore. She was steady, almost defiant. "Miss Monroe," she said softly, "thank you for saying what we all think but never dare to say." Alicia nodded once. "Truth doesn't need permission, just courage." A passenger 2 rows back whispered, "I'll never forget this flight." Another muttered, "Neither will she," glancing at Nicole, whose tears had finally broken through the last of her poise. Alicia's phone buzzed again. Rachel's voice returned through the earpiece, calm and procedural. "Miss Monroe, HQ requests confirmation. Should this incident be marked for public disclosure under ethics transparency?" Alicia hesitated only for a heartbeat. Then, "Yes. Release it. Unedited." Nicole gasped. "No, please, you can't." Alicia faced her fully. "You made your statement in public, Miss Harris. Now the truth will live there, too." Rachel's voice replied, "Acknowledged. Uploading to Internal Ethics Board." The silence that followed was absolute. No one coughed. No one moved, as though any sound might break the gravity of what had just been set in motion. Alicia let the stillness breathe, then spoke to the cabin. "Every company thinks culture is written in its policies, but culture is what happens when no one's watching. Tonight, all of you watched, and that means it can't hide anymore." The passengers looked at her not as a CEO, but as a mirror of everything they'd ignored too many times. Nicole finally whispered, "I thought you'd destroy me." Alicia's tone was softer now, almost maternal. "No, I'm giving you the chance to rebuild yourself without the lie that made you powerful." Her words carried the weight of grace, but the chill of truth. Outside, lightning cracked once more, illuminating the wings in blue-white light. The plane dipped lower, the skyline of Atlanta stretching wide beneath them. Alicia closed her eyes. The fight was over. The lesson was not. "Power isn't how loud you can speak," she murmured. "It's how quietly you can correct what's wrong." The engines roared as the plane aligned with the runway lights, the descent smooth but absolute, just like justice coming in for landing. The wheels touched down with a hiss, and the cabin jolted forward. Gasps rippled, not from fear but release. For 20 minutes, this aircraft had become a mirror. Now it was coming home to reflection. Alicia Monroe kept her seatbelt fastened. She didn't rush, didn't glance at her phone. Her power had already spoken. The city lights outside streaked across the window like silent applause. Captain Pierce's voice came through the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Atlanta. Please remain seated until the seatbelt sign is off." He paused, then added something no airline manual had ever required, and "Thank you for your patience and your decency." The passengers exchanged glances. They knew what he meant. At the galley, Nicole Harris wiped her face with the edge of her sleeve. The red of her lipstick had faded. Only the shaking remained. Alicia turned to her calmly. "You'll stay seated until security arrives." Nicole nodded, eyes hollow. "Yes, ma'am." Mia, seated on the jump seat, met Alicia's gaze. "What's going to happen to her?" "Accountability," Alicia said simply. "The same thing that keeps a plane in the air balance." The sound of the landing gear retracting echoed like punctuation. As they taxied toward the gate, passengers began whispering to one another. "She didn't raise her voice once." "She didn't have to." One man murmured, "If that's what leadership looks like, I need to rethink my boss." A child 2 rows ahead peeked over her seat, eyes wide. "Mom, is she really the boss of the plane?" Her mother smiled faintly. "She's the boss of what's right." The captain opened the cockpit door, stepping into the aisle. His voice was low, respectful. "Miss Monroe, ground crew and corporate security are ready." Alicia nodded. "Good. Let's end this flight properly." When the jetway connected, 2 officers in Navy blazers boarded not police, but Sky Vista's internal compliance team. Rachel's voice came through Alicia's earpiece again. "We're live, ma'am. HR and press team standing by." "Thank you," Alicia murmured. Nicole rose slowly when the officers approached. "Please, can I apologize before—" Alicia stopped her with a look, not cruel, but final. "You'll do that in the debrief. Not here. This cabin has seen enough performance for one night." The officers escorted Nicole and Brian toward the exit. The sound of footsteps on the jet bridge was the only noise left. As they disappeared, the passengers began clapping again quietly this time, not for spectacle, but solidarity. Alicia turned toward them, standing in the aisle. "You don't owe me applause," she said softly. "You owe yourselves awareness." Her words lingered like fragrance in the recycled air. Mia stepped forward, her voice trembling. "Thank you for not staying silent." Alicia's answer was simple. "Silence never saved anyone. It just delays the truth." The captain nodded slowly. "If there's ever another audit flight, ma'am, I'd be honored to crew it." Alicia allowed herself the smallest smile. "There won't be another. One is enough, if people remember." Outside, the jet bridge hissed open, light spilling in white, clean, and honest. The passengers began to disembark, one by one, but their eyes lingered on her, the woman who owned the airline, the moment, and herself. As the last passenger left, Alicia remained standing by seat 2 Amperes, the place where disrespect had tried to take root and failed. She whispered to the empty cabin, "Justice doesn't travel first class. It sits wherever it's needed." Then she picked up her bag, straightened her cardigan, and walked toward the open door, leaving behind not scandal, but standard. The terminal was nearly silent when Alicia Monroe stepped off Flight 247. No press, no flashbulbs, just the muted hum of ground crews and the soft echo of shoes on polished floor. Her heels clicked in rhythm, calm and unhurried, each step erasing the chaos that had tried to define her flight. Security officers fell back respectfully as she passed. Captain Pierce trailed a few paces behind, still in uniform, hat in hand. "Ma'am," he said, voice low, "I've flown for 20 years. I've seen storms tear engines apart, but I've never seen a storm handled like that." Alicia gave a faint smile. "Storms reveal structure, Captain." Ours held. Through the glass wall of the concourse, the plane stood under floodlights, quiet, gleaming, ordinary again. Except it wasn't ordinary. Not anymore. Mia approached, still in her trainee blazer, eyes red but proud. "Miss Monroe, may I ask something?" "Of course. Why didn't you fire her on the spot?" Alicia looked toward the aircraft, where technicians moved like shadows around the fuselage. "Because public shame doesn't teach. It only satisfies. Change requires reflection, not spectacle." Mia nodded slowly. "Will she ever fly again?" "That depends," Alicia said. "Some people learn only when gravity hits." Rachel's voice buzzed through Alicia's earpiece again. HQ confirmed, ma'am. Policy revisions in motion. Media request pending a statement. Alicia answered without breaking stride. Tell them this. We're not canceling anyone. We're correcting everyone. She stopped near a floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the runway. Outside, another Sky Vista plane lifted into the night's silver body, cutting through cloud like a promise kept. The reflection of its ascent traced across her face. She spoke softly, more to herself than anyone. Power isn't owning the sky. It's making sure everyone can fly through it safely. Mia stood beside her, silent. The moment didn't need applause. It needed witness. Passengers from the flight drifted by, some pausing to nod, others whispering thank yous they didn't quite know how to phrase. A mother guided her daughter past Alicia. The little girl looked up, eyes bright. You're the lady from the plane. Alicia crouched slightly, smiling. And you're the brave one who asked why. The girl grinned. Mom said you're a hero. Alicia shook her head gently. No, sweetheart. Heroes fight battles. I just finished one. She rose, exhaled, and turned toward the gate exit. Behind her, the monitors refreshed with a new message from Sky Vista's system. Internal notice. Effective immediately. Bias response protocol updated. Every passenger deserves first-class respect, regardless of seat. The announcement scrolled across every employee tablet before sunrise. As Alicia disappeared down the terminal corridor, Rachel's final message came through her earpiece. HQ signed off, ma'am. Statement approved for release. Alicia replied quietly, then let it fly. She paused once more before the automatic doors opened to the dawn beyond. Sunlight poured in gold, forgiving, infinite. I don't need to record injustice, she whispered. I am the record. And with that, the doors parted, and Alicia Monroe, the woman they tried to remove from first class, walked into the morning as the very definition of it.